video dialogue, video diary, video log, video blog, however you want to put it. This is the first time I've done this, so you have to give me a few moments to collect my thoughts and put everything in order. Um, you know, I do a blog on hubpages.com. I wrote an article last week about if I was running for office. Well, I was thinking about some political hotbed items that are going around today. I actually want to talk about two of them. One is abortion. And let me put it to you this way. I'm not pro-abortion. I'm not anti-abortion. I really think it comes down to individual rights on this. But think about abortion in this way. You don't see people bombing vasectomy clinics. You don't see people bombing or threatening doctors that perform vasectomies. You don't see people protesting vasectomy clinics because abortion is a problem of women. That means it's less than a problem for men. And I don't mean it in a bad way. I just mean I'm putting it into a context. It's also a problem of the poor. Because if this was a problem of the wealthy would pay some money and the problem would go away. Wealthy women have been getting abortions for a long time. They've just been calling it by discrete names. Oh, I had a procedure done. I went to the doctor and he took care of my problem. This is a problem of the poor, which means taxpayer money is being spent on it, and taxpayer money is being spent on things to support education programs, which means it instantly becomes a hotbed issue. We have to quit making it a hotbed issue, because if we have to put it in a thought this way, that the Supreme Court says it's legal. Now, if the Supreme Court ever says it is illegal, two things are going to happen. One, it's going to become an underground problem with shadow abortions clinics operating under the radar. Wealthy women will still continue to go and get their abortions at their doctor because they're paying for that doctor to be discreet and say, oh, this is just a feminine procedure and that's all you need to know. While the poor will have to suffer and suffer and suffer. And like I said earlier, because this is an issue that affects poor women, that means men don't think about it in the proper sense. This is all about a woman's right to choose. She has the right to make a decision about her reproductive parts, about her body, about what's going to come out of her body, what's going to go into her body, everything about her body. By saying this is illegal, we're taking away rights of the individual. We're making women second-class citizens because they can no longer control their own reproductive rights. It's all right for a man to go to his doctor, get a vasectomy, come home, put some ice on the boys, sit around, watch TV for a couple days, and whine about it. But he's taking his reproductive rights in control. In essence, he's decided that he's no longer going to have the ability to father any children. He's self-aborting before the pregnancy ever happens, in a sense. While a woman, if she goes to the clinic and even visits a doctor to think about having an abortion, she's called a killer, a sinner, a whore, she's a murderer, is what people are saying to her. They're not asking her why she's there. You know, are you a victim of rape or incest? Are you in an abusive relationship where the man in your life is using sex as a tool to keep you under his thumb? Is he keeping you barefoot and pregnant as a way of controlling you? No one asks those questions. We don't want to know those questions. The people that are against this don't want to know why you're there. The only reason they have is that you are there. So, as we go on, we have to approach the idea and approach the problem differently. Are we making people second-class citizens? And that's the first thing that should come to our mind, that we are making this individual a second-class citizen by telling them they don't have the right to do something that pertains to their own body. And that's where we need to draw the line, that this is a right for an individual to control what goes on in their body. Now, when it reaches a certain point, I can understand that when it's possible for that child inside the womb to survive outside the body as early as 5 months, then that's a different issue. Because now it is human in shape and form, can breathe on its own. It may have a difficult start in life, but has a possibility of survival. That's a different story. We shouldn't be doing abortions that late. But the next day pill or the morning after pill, however you want to call it, we shouldn't hide that. We shouldn't leave that as a non-resource for women. Up until the first 3 months, we shouldn't leave that as a non-resource. So how many times has it happened where a woman who is diabetic doesn't discover she's pregnant until the fact that she's done damage not only to herself but to that fetus, and that fetus has damage in such a way that it's not survivable outside the womb. But no one is asking those questions. No one is asking those questions why she's walking through that doctor's door. You know, they don't want to know. They just know that she's going to an abortion clinic, and that's all that they're concerned about. So, like I said, if this is a problem with the wealthy, they would pay some money and it'd go away. We would never hear about it again. Oh, there's a shortage in caviar. I'm just going to pay an extra $200 to get that jar Black Laguga, or whatever it is, from Russia. You know, it's going to cost me a little extra money. I can afford that, you know. I'm Mitt Romney, you know, I've got all this money offshore. I can afford, you know, a couple $100 for a nice jar of black caviar from Russia. But it's a problem of the poor. And because it's a problem of the poor, it involves taxpayer money and taxpayer funding in social services, which makes it a hotbed issue. But it's also one of the things you're not hearing about right now in the campaign. You're not hearing about it because it's kind of become a dead issue, in a way. It's legal. There are challenges to it. Challenges keep getting knocked down. As long as those challenges keep getting knocked down, we're protecting the rights of the individual. And that is the key. We have to protect the rights of the individual, regardless of our own feelings. People have spilled blood and died for this country to protect the rights of common everyday citizens like you, myself and you. Enough said. Always remember the rights of the individual. Which leads us to the second discussion topic I'd like to talk about today, and that is gay marriage, gay civil unions, homosexual marriage, same-sex marriage, however you want to put it. Same-sex civil union. Again, we're making a portion of our population second-class citizens. And that is the key. A marriage certificate issued by your local county is a legal document from the state saying these two individuals who are consenting adults can form a union, can be joined. It is not a religious ceremony. Religion has no part in this at this point. You're filling out a form, you're paying your $36, and you're getting a piece of paper that says you and your significant other, who you choose to be with, can be a unit, a legal unit, for taxes, for health insurance, for everything in life. The two individuals are a legal unit. And I would think divorce lawyers would be for civil unions, gay marriage, same-sex marriage, whatever you want to call it. Because to dissolve the said legal union requires another legal action, the dissolution, which is we all commonly call divorce. Having been there more than once, I understand this part of life. And marriages for heterosexual individuals aren't always perfect. So, are we denying rights to these individuals because we're afraid that they're going to change the way families are defined? That was the same argument in the 50s and 60s when blacks, African Americans, and white Caucasian Americans, or European Americans, or whatever you want to call us with the pasty skin, were not allowed to be married in certain southern states. In fact, even in Kansas, an African American man or woman could not be married to a white man or woman. It was not allowed as late as 1960. Think of that. That in Kansas, a mixed race couple could not marry and legally have children together. So, that's the same argument that people are using to stop gay marriage, same-sex marriage, same-sex civil unions, like I said, whatever you want to call them. The best term is for any consenting adults to get together and form a legal union. Let's just call it a civil union. Let's call it what it is. The state is saying these two individuals can be married. These two individuals can form a household for taxation purposes, for I just lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. But can form a household for all intents and purposes, for all aspects of life, insurance, taxes, the adoption or creation of children, to give some legal semblance. Why should we deny those rights to someone because the partner they choose in life is the same gender as they are, the same sex? We're making people who choose to do this second-class citizens. There's nothing wrong with two individuals who are in love with each other to decide to form a union, a legal union, for partnership rights between the two of them. Think of this. In many states right now, a couple who's of the same gender cannot legally marry yet. States like Vermont and some other progressive states, Iowa, Illinois, etc., are moving towards that, giving this legal status. But let's take, for example, in the state of Georgia, or Alabama, or Mississippi. I'm choosing the southern states because they are notoriously conservative. In these states right now, a same-sex couple has no rights to form a union. That means when one of the partners in the relationship dies, the other partner has no rights to any of their mutual stuff, to their bank accounts. When this happens, it's a messy situation. By giving them legal status, it eases some things that we as heterosexual couples that are married take for granted. That if one partner shall die, the other one inherits everything else and moves on. In a same-sex, same-gender couple, that's not always the situation. These people, I shouldn't say these people, these couples, when they lose a partner out of that couple, they're losing a lot. Why should we treat them as second-class citizens? Again, the rights of the individual. Our country was founded on the premise of protecting the rights of the individual. That's why we have amended our Constitution so many times. Think about this at the founding of our country. I myself would never be able to vote. Even though I'm a white male, I'm not a landowner. Think of this, when the Constitution was enacted, only white male landowners could vote. Well, that was changed. Then it was changed so that women could vote. And then it was changed that those at the age 18 could vote. We've progressed. But in some ways we have not. Our founding fathers were much forward thinking. They designed an imperfect document meant to be amended and adapted. One of the important ideals that they all carried forward is they fought for rights of the individual. Why do you think we have the First Amendment? Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of the press, freedom of religion. These men knew that this document would change with time. They knew it had to be adapted. They knew with forethought that it had to be amended. That's why they put in the processes. If they hadn't put in the processes, we would still be thinking the way we would in 1787 when the document was written. That only white male landowners can vote. Everyone else can take a big shove off and not give a holy hoot. But let's get back to the issues. Both the previous issues I've talked about are all about rights of the individual. If we're not protecting the rights of the individual, are we really protecting the process? And that's what these issues come down to, is rights of the individual. Abortion is an individual choice, and you have to seek in your heart whether you're doing the right thing or not. And there are many instances where you are doing the right thing. Cases of rape, incest, emotionally damaging relationships, physically damaging relationships, illness. Many things. Think of this. Womb to birth is a 25% chance of life. All of us who are walking around have beaten the odds. Now let's think about civil unions. We're denying the rights to individuals because of their sexual orientation. We don't allow people to be discriminated in the workplace because of their sexual orientation. And why are we doing it in the legal ramifications of marriage? Or, I should say better, civil unions. Think about these two ideas. You may not agree with me. You may agree with me. You may think I'm full of hot air. You may think I'm full of BS. But like I said, these are just opinions. These are my opinions. And opinions, as they're most often said, opinions are like a certain body part. Everyone has one. Not everyone got one, I can't say that. I'm going to use proper English. Everyone has one of these body parts. And what always emanates from it doesn't always smell like roses. You have the right to listen. I have the right to speak. You have the right not to listen, and I have the right not to speak. These are rights of the individual. Think about that next time you're protesting because two men or two women want to form a civil union. You're denying them rights of the individual. Think about the next time you're protesting in front of an abortion clinic, or you're threatening a doctor who performs abortion, or even you're threatening people who work at a family planning clinic. These are all about rights of the individual. On that note, good night, good luck, and travel on.